place where visionary leaders build a life and business legacy on purpose through mindset, branding, marketing, sales, systems, and team so they can make an amazing impact and income and positively affect their communities worldwide. Ensure that you are sharing this show, you're subscribing, and you also are leaving us a review so we can create more amazing content around those areas to help you level up to the next level and also bring amazing guest experts that can share their knowledge and expertise with you so that you can create amazing legacy. All right, visionary leaders, welcome back to another show. I hope you're having a great Tuesday so far. It's the second day of the week, so I hope you're working smart and not hard, and right in line with today's topic. Today, I have another amazing guest on our show, and we're going to talk about how to stop the hustle and the overworking mentality, which most of self-proclaimed perfectionists and also overachievers have a problem with. So my guest today, Melissa um, Anderson, is going to give us amazing advice around where actually does that even stem from, and also how to start overcoming that. So Melissa, thanks so much for coming on our show. I am so excited to have you here.
I'm just delighted to be here, Elona. Thanks for having me. And it's Anders with no E on the end there. Just for anyone that's watching. Not that I'm a perfectionist or anything. And that stop overworking has certainly stemmed from that for me. So just delighted to be here and happy to be in conversation with you around this to help your viewership.
It's amazing to have you here. And Melissa, I usually ask my guests, we will fix that typo at the end. Share a little bit about your background. Where is it that, what's that, what were some of the most meaningful moments that led you to the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, so for me, it's twofold. So I had my own experience with overworking and burning out, and also through the life coaching work that I do with my clients, I had some revelations in our work around how to stop overworking and what was actually happening. So the first part was really for my own self probably 12 or 13 years ago now. I had sort of my bathroom floor moment working on a deadline in my job and really stretching myself to the extreme and working 14-hour days, waking up with coffee, living off granola bars, drinking wine to go to sleep. And at the end of that deadline, when it was all over, I still couldn't come down from the amount of stress and the amount of cortisol that was in my body. And I made a promise to myself that I would never do it again. But it took me a really long time to really figure out what was happening. And it wasn't until um, 2018 when I had my own coach, my own life coach, and started doing that work that I really realized what was going on and that so much of it was dependent on my mindset. And then in parallel, as after I opened my business and I was working with clients, the majority of which were all high achievers, mostly academic high achievers, and they had this common thread of overworking. And kind of pinpointed something that was really interesting. We weren't specifically working on the overwork, but mostly working on changing their relationship with work or changing their relationship with themselves. And I noticed a correlation between as their self worth went up, as they were starting to talk to themselves with more kindness and compassion, they would come to calls, and we always start our calls with celebrations, and they would come to calls and say, I didn't work this weekend, or I just took a vacation and I didn't check my email. And it got me really curious. It was like, what's going on here, right? We're working on ourselves. We're working on developing that relationship with ourselves so that we have a more positive sense of our own value. And a byproduct of this is that we're not overworking. And so I really started to get curious about it. And um, and I knew for myself that it had been a part of my journey already, that coaching had really helped me to realize some of the mindset that was creating that overwork for me. And it was really what stopped the overwork, was changing that mindset. So then started to do it more purposefully with my clients and creating results. And that is really where I'm at right now with it, is just, getting the message out that there is a way to stop this. And it doesn't mean not doing your work in the world and not having the impact that you want to have. It's really about being productive, being creative, being who you want to be without hustling, without overworking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love the work that you do personally, because I've had my own personal challenges that I've had to overcome with how to, realign my priorities, how to realign my values, how to change a lot of those mindsets, those deep
Mhm.
rooted beliefs that are not so easy to kind of see on the surface around what work should look like. Because there's always a cost. I mean, even for me, right?
Mm.
There's always a cost to your health, to time with your family, to your self care, right? And there's better ways to go about this for sure. So let's start with a common cause, Melissa, that you've seen from the work you do with your clients. Where does this usually stem from for most people?
Yeah, so I love that you've asked that question about the cause and not the symptoms, because the type of life coaching that I do is all connected to the cause. And the cause is really simple. It's either the way we're thinking about it, either the way that that we're avoiding some negative emotion, or that we're not taking the actions that we need to take in order to not work. So the process that I take my clients through is really it's really simple, because it's all it is really is creating a schedule where you've decided and committed to what your off time is. And that might be different for everyone, and it's completely up to them as to how they decide to do that. And then from there, then you practice following that schedule. And inevitably things come up as to reasons why we end up working in our off time. And then they bring that to coaching, or they do their own self-coaching. They learn how to do that. And then we look at what their thoughts are that are creating um, that that overwork for them, or working in their off time. And then we sometimes, just by creating that awareness around the thoughts that are creating um, the overwork, and how your thoughts are creating your results, oftentimes that can be enough. I had a great example of a client that was feeling very overwhelmed in becoming pregnant, and of all of the things that she had to do. And so we looked at her thoughts of having that thought of, there's so much to do. And then we kind of looked at, what are you doing and how are you feeling when you think that thought? And she was feeling really overwhelmed. And then she would actually go out and text all of her friends for ideas about all the different things that she needs to do. And we just had a chuckle, because we realized it's like, you're creating, by you're seeking out and finding more to do, because you're thinking that there's so much to do.
Mhm.
And so that result, as soon as she saw that, the light bulb just went off, and she was like, "Oh, I get to decide what I'm going to do now, and I don't and when I think that way, I don't feel overwhelmed. I feel more in control." And then she can create the results that she wants from there. And it's um when you create that container for the off time, whatever's causing the overwork for you will come up in that off time. And I love there's like a little quick fast track that you can do, which I always think is really fun, is to just in the middle of your workday, take 5 minutes where you do absolutely nothing. So you're like completely useless. You don't do anything. You just sit. You're not even meditating. Like you really just sit and do nothing. And all of your reasons why you should be working will come up for you. And that can be like a quick and easy way to start to see what the thoughts are that are creating your result of overworking.
Hmm. Powerful stuff. I mean, we definitely need someone like you to look at those patterns because it's, a lot of them, I mean, we can't see our own stuff, right? And I love that you shared
Absolutely, yeah.
with that client because for the longest I also had the same thought, just, oh my gosh, I have so much to do, and then just my mind got busy and I wasn't even productive because I was just like thinking of all the stuff I had to do.
Yeah.
Just go
Yeah.
do the darn thing, and then you just kind of get that relief there, but being intentional with it is really, really important. I also feel like for a lot of well, women or even, guys, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
sometimes overworking. It's that shield to
Oh,
protect you
yeah.
from those negative feelings of, I'm not
Mhm.
worthy. I should be doing something with my life. I should be contributing. I should be doing something because
Mhm.
for me, it stemmed from childhood. And I shared that with you when we connected as well, that,
Mhm.
you get praised for doing, making sure you're always doing something rather than the
Yeah.
being. So I could see why that's such a big struggle. It was one for me, and I'm still learning how to navigate the being more than the doing without
Yes.
sitting with those hard feelings of anxiety that, wait, I'm not productive. I'm not doing something. That must mean that, something is not moving forward. I'm not moving towards my goals. I'm not moving towards the things that I want to do. It's that
Yeah.
fear-based mindset that triggers a lot of people. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I see that for sure, and has been my own experience as well, and it really is, I think what's helped me with it the most is remembering that the uncomfortable emotion that I'm avoiding. So, for example, so if you have the thought that, like, I should be doing something, I should be contributing more, right? And you feel like you're not doing that, and that creates that anxiety when you're not working, say, or, um, but that it's kind of like trading 2 negative emotions. It's like I can either feel negative about not doing the contributing, or I feel the negative result of the overworking, like the exhaustion and the lack of creativity and productivity. So it's sort of that's been something that's really helped me is to remember like I'm not actually chasing something better. It's I'm trading one negative result for another negative result. And so it's not actually the
Mm.
solution. The solution is to change the way I'm thinking about it. Um, so, for example, one thought that was really prevalent for me was it's all on me. And I know where it comes from. It comes from um, like my upbringing and the sense of responsibility that I had. And And it serves me well at times, right? That I can act it served me. I can activate it and create what I want, by taking charge, right? And but then there are also times where if I think it's all on me, I make it all on me. I don't ask for help. I don't reach out to other people. I take care of everything. And, what ends up happening is that I'm trading that feeling of guilt, like not if I don't take charge for resentment because I'm putting it all on myself. So there's been times where I'll say no to something and then like working on something during my off time or even I find, what we do one place we do everywhere. So it shows my overwork shows up for me at home too. Um, So I might say no to something that my family is doing, and I remind myself that I'm trading guilt or I'm trading resentment for guilt today.
Mhm.
So it's sort of like this, right? It's like, okay, I'm gonna feel guilty about not going, because I just need some downtime today, and that's what I want and need, and not social connection if that's their choice, and um, versus going and then feeling resentful when I'm there.
I mean, I love the awareness. This is the work you do. So obviously, there's always a trade-off, isn't there? And there's a trade-off
Yeah,
where we even the behaviors that serve us well. I mean, being ambitious served me well
yeah,
many
yeah,
things, right? So obviously,
absolutely.
knowing that it does serve you, which is why it keeps repeated, we keep repeating it, but being
Hmm.
very mindful of the negative consequences, because with everything, the universe is always balanced, right? Isn't it? Right? There's always a
Yes,
positive and a negative, and at times, if we're aware of the negative, just like you mentioned, then you get to make a conscious choice about that. You're like, okay, at this moment,
exactly.
choose that this is going to be, because it's going to be for the greater good. I mean, we're always calculating in our minds, right? For the higher benefit, so to speak, of that one thing that's really important to us. So we're always
Right.
trading and making these silent decisions a lot of times. And they
Yeah.
show up in our day to day. Melissa, what about people that say, I'm busy? I'm busy. That's the biggest
Mm.
field that I've kind of noticed as well, helping people grow businesses. It's like, I'm so busy. I'm too busy to do this. I'm too busy to do that. Like, what is your
Yeah.
perspective on that? And then the
Yeah.
other
Oh
thing
my
we're going to
gosh.
focus our conversation on is feeling our feelings. I think this is such a big
Oh yeah.
concept and topic that we were not taught as children how to feel our negative feelings, which is why a lot of times we cope with things in a very negative way. So let's focusing on those two things. People that say, I'm
Okay.
busy, and then how do we feel our feelings?
Love
That
it.
sounds like an elementary,
Yes.
but it's so necessary. I'm always going through that process. So it does not matter, what your journey is. It's just a human experience emotionally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's a big part of it, right? I'll come back to it. So the I'm busy is, oh my gosh, I remember this shift for myself, just noticing, and it happened in when I was before I went into business and I was working in a job, and just noticing, I started to notice actually, like people that were busy were not necessarily productive. That there's a difference between being busy and being productive. And I remember, people will often say that, like, "I'm really busy. I don't have time." And that, like, knowing that your thoughts create your results, you're creating when you think I'm busy and when you think you don't have time, that's what you create because you're filling it with busy things. And I think it often I know when I think it's a very long time ago that I used to think that way, like, I'm so busy." But knowing now what I know, from coaching is that I think, you create, like, a feeling of, almost like it's a lack for sure because you feel like you don't have the time, and you also feel um, like maxed out, right? It's like this kind of like, I'm at my capacity. And you can't take anything in. It's almost like, preventing, like an overwhelm or something, I would say, at least in my
Yeah,
experience.
if anything comes
And,
down to my world, it would be like I would snap or I would scream.
right.
I don't even have another, spot in my day. So you do feel those emotions. You get triggered for sure when you do.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So then the actions that you take when you're thinking you're busy, right, are like you snap when someone asks you for something else, right, or put something else on your to-do list. Oh my gosh, like how many times have we all done that? And you're in that space of anxiety, right? So then you're not able to what you're not doing is really like slowing down, thinking about like, what are my priorities today? What are the things that I really want to accomplish today, this week, this month, this year, right? And because if you're thinking you're busy, you'll create busyness. But I think busyness is different than being productive or being like intentional about the work that you're doing, right?
I love that. So
You can busy yourself with email, right?
you can busy yourself all day. We know that,
All day long.
especially with this age of
Yeah.
distraction we're living in. It's just, if you're not intentional, and that's kind of the perspective that I wanted you to share. How do we know the difference between being busy and being productive then?
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts on it too, but I think the difference for me has really been, like, the intention behind the work. So and I think going into, like, feeling our uncomfortable emotions, it's connected, right? Because if we're busying ourselves, we're probably avoiding something, and probably whatever we're avoiding is connected to some negative emotion that we think we're gonna have when we do the thing that we're avoiding.
mm,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
It's a little bit like step by
absolutely.
step, but
Planning ahead of
yeah.
time and planning those activities that are going to move our longer term vision forward, or the things that we're trying to accomplish ahead of time, and then staying focused on those tasks is kind of how I
Yeah.
define, well, especially in business, the difference between, are you being, pulled from a million other directions, or are you being distracted, or are you even making a choice that right now I'm feeling that if I just open up my Facebook, I just want to just be pulled into the feed and whatever, right? So if you
Mhm.
decide that, is that part of your time block for the moment? Say that I'm going to go engage on the wall, let's say, of Facebook, right? That is an
Mhm.
intentional activity that you decided ahead of time, rather than you went to post something, but then you just kind of, got fed into the feed, and you just kind of like commenting, doing other things on Facebook, for example. So yeah, I also think that it's that intentional activities that you plan ahead of time in your calendar. And
Mhm.
if we stay as loyal as possible, I mean, there's going to be days, it's not an
Yeah.
exact science, right? Um,
We do have human brains.
yeah, then we know those are definitely the right priorities that we have moving forward. Great, great stuff. And Melissa, how about the negative feelings? Is there a process that you help your clients with that you could share with us that could probably help people
Yeah.
that are in the moment, facing the rejection in their business, launching a project that is not going well? There's a lot of negative emotions that we are absorbing as
Yeah.
entrepreneurs. How do we manage that?
Yeah. So, like, I'll talk a little bit about actually processing an emotion, but I think also just because we've got a bit of a theme of intentionality, I think it's also like if we look at life as having those two sides, right? The positive and the negative, and that there's a balance to that. And if we accept that as a concept, like you shared, I think it's also like choosing which negative emotions we are willing to experience ahead of time in order to create what we want to create in our business, right? So, for example, right now, um, I'm making a shift because I know that, like I was sharing, I'm very familiar with guilt, I'm very familiar with resentment, and I'm very familiar with disappointment. And so I'll talk a little bit about actually processing them, but I know myself, I know how those feel in my body. I've experienced them. I know the kinds of thoughts that create them. And now I'm like I'm going to choose failure. I'm going to choose rejection, and I'm choosing like a different set of negative emotions on purpose. So right away, when I start to feel rejection, I'm like, "Oh, wait, I chose this." I remind myself, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I decided I was gonna take more risk, which means I'm gonna feel more failure, and I'm gonna probably feel more rejection," right? So right
Mm.
away, that decreases the suffering of it because you feel like you're in you have agency, you're in control of it. Does that
Ooh,
make
that's
sense?
powerful. I never had it heard it
Yeah.
explained that way. Choosing that at a time, and then we'll start the process. Honestly, I've done that, not
Yeah.
knowing this. I've done it, to myself and being like, it's just part of the process. If I want to grow, I have to go through some growing pains, right, and feel some of those things. It won't kill
Yes.
us.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the more you practice the processing of them, um, the more you realize it's like, "Oh, I'm, like, through that emotion, and I can actually do the thing that was causing that emotion," or you learn how to process it. So really to process your feelings, I've used most effectively this tool developed by, Tara Brach, and it's called the RAIN tool, and I just love it. I share it with my clients. If you have show notes, I can give you a link. Um, and it takes you through a process to allow you to recognize. It's great for triggers too. It's like recognizing, okay, I'm feeling rejected, right? So something's happening, and sometimes it's not that clean, right? It's like something's happening in my body, right? And like what is happening? That can be part of it too. But I'm just intellectualizing it a bit here for to talk about it, but just recognizing that you're in the negative emotion, and then to actually allow it, and by allowing it, that's the A of rain, is that you allow yourself to really feel it in your body. And this is really important because it allows you to somewhat distance yourself from it, because you start like just describing it in your body. Like, I can feel this as my stomach is sinking, or um, it's like a tightness in my chest, or my shoulders are cramped up, or um, I my jaw is tight. Whatever it happens to be for you, but sort of doing like a body scan and allowing yourself to learn how to do that. Um, And then what I found is really possible or powerful is to look at investigating, like, what is this about for me? So that's the I. So you do some inquiry, um, and you can just ask, like, what exactly that? Like, what is this about for me? What do I need? Is it showing me anything about what I value? So those two, your needs and your values, really important, because your emotions, it also develops this relationship with your emotions, whether they're positive or negative, that is that they're like messages that you're receiving, and that they're giving you data. They're giving you information so that you can make decisions or move forward in some way. So checking in about what it's about. And then the nurture is the N, which is really to find those ways that you can support yourself to nurture yourself. And for me, that looks like I might just put my hand on my chest and say a kind word or two to myself, give myself some compassion, like, huh, this is, and curiosity, like, huh, this is how I feel when I'm rejected, when someone says
Mm.
no. Yeah. And that's like, that makes sense, right?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
love that framework and tool.
Yeah.
We'll definitely share it for everyone in the show notes. We love a good
Yeah.
framework here because it's like, it's repeatable
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, someone has put something together to help you with this specific problem. So you share that with us, and the fact that you
Yeah.
also help your clients
Yeah.
kind of process through, because it's a skill that is learnable, right? It's a learnable skill.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it's so liberating, really, when you learn how to process it and you learn how to process that negative emotion and move through it. Um, because the only reason you're ever really not doing anything is because you're afraid of how you might
Yes,
feel,
yes. I was gonna say it
right?
helps you
So
unleash
if
your potential. You're unstoppable. Once you
it
learn that,
really does.
you're like,
Yeah.
nothing will, I mean, Even if he gets to me, I'll get the lesson, I'll go through the process, I know how to come out
Yes,
on the other side
yes.
victorious or resilient.
Yeah, always learning, right? And it really puts you in that space of curiosity and learning, and y I mean, that's what we're all about, right, is growing and moving forward. I will say too, like, one thing people often ask me is, like, when I share that tool is, "That's great, but, like, what" like, when I'm getting triggered, that's like, how do I actually do that when I'm being triggered by something, right? And so what I say is to just do the first 2, right? To help support yourself, or like have an exit plan, right? Like if you are in a work environment, or wherever you are, just give yourself that time to do the recognizing and allowing. And then, in your own uh, journaling or work that you do in your own personal development, then take the time to say, "Oh yeah, why did I get so angry about that?" and process it in that
Yeah.
way. So I would offer that as well, because sometimes we're like, "Oh, that sounds like I'm not so sure that's something I could do when I'm being triggered," right? It's like, but the other thing too is like I experience fewer triggers now as a result of that, because of doing that work. Like, I've done thousands of those, um, and now, when my husband has a change of plan or something, which used to trigger me because I have everything structured, everything set in place. I have already, mapped out the plan of all of the things that are happening as a result of whatever he's doing, right? And it used to trigger me, and because I would start doing all the processing to re-perfect. And now he can tell me. I had him, like, a few weeks ago. It was so fun. He changed his mind 3 times about whether he was gonna go to archery or not, and I was like, "Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay." And it was like, "Wow, is this really happening?"
Yeah, I mean, that's like a tool you have to have in your
Yeah,
back pocket, not only obviously as a human being, because life will always throw us curveballs and we have to learn to adapt
yeah,
in the
for sure.
moment, uh, but
Mhm,
also in entrepreneurship, because there's so much that we think
mhm.
it should go that way and we figure out that that's not it, right? So we're always like evolving, learning, growing, which is why even,
Yeah,
the show is called The Life School because we're lifelong learners and we're always need to grow and
mm,
develop. And this is such an important skill to have as a entrepreneur as well, because nothing will ever go to plan. You have to be open to what new information is coming towards you, especially for us purpose driven entrepreneurs that are spiritual. We do believe that through we're all in this unique individual journey, and we could grow our businesses so authentically if we just raise our awareness and understand that if it didn't work out this way, if the door closed, it means that that's not your door for the moment. So understanding how to even time the timings and with business, it's
yeah,
such an important skill that you have to rely on such a powerful tool like this, or your intuition, or your faith, or your spirituality, or all these other things that are going to be your aid in the journey for sure. Melissa, I have, of
mhm,
course, enjoyed our conversation. We can go on and on for such a long time, but we'll wrap up today's show. And I would love to end with a final message from your school of life, and also being that we're all so authentic as
mm,
human beings, what is it that makes you different in the space, the work that you do,
mm,
that you could share with us?
mm. I think, what makes me different in the space of work, I think, in connection with that purpose-driven life, I think it's, all of the pieces have really come into place for me along the arc of the story. Um, I had someone say to me the other day that it's like your story just makes sense as to where you are and what you're doing and who you're connecting with, um And I think there's 2 pieces to that, right? Which maybe could be the thing that I've learned is that, one is that we get to write that story about the facts of our lives and create in connection with our purpose, right? That we feel, right? Because I think for me, that connection um, is something that I feel like I have a deep feeling that I'm meant to connect with and help people in people that did well in school that are high achievers to open their hearts more, get out of their heads more, and be able to um, learn how to do that and know their own value and their own self-worth. And so that purpose, I think you can you can write your own story about whatever the facts are about your life. And really, I think that's been an important piece for me is to really have that as an anchor that I'm exactly where I'm meant to be and contributing in the way that I was meant to.
Mm, absolutely beautiful. Gives you so much freedom and it relaxes you and it helps you enjoy the process. There's no destination.
Absolutely.
There's
Yeah.
no destination we're chasing for based on what we've been told.
Yeah,
There is no destination. Everything is beautifully aligned just the way it is, right? So we just keep moving towards that path
absolutely.
and follow our heart and our intuition, and it will always lead us really, really well. So far, he has not failed me. So I don't know about anyone else. Love that. Melissa, where is it that people can continue this beautiful conversation with you as well?
The best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn. I would love to stay connected there, and my website is melissaeanders.com if they want more information about working with me and how to stop overworking. There's lots of good stuff there.
Perfect. So connect with Melissa on LinkedIn and the website right on the screen there. Melissa, I want to thank you for your time. I'm so grateful for our connection. Thank you so much for everything you shared on our show today. And I will see you, Purpose Driven Visionary Leaders, on our next show with another amazing guest and conversation. You know what to do. Don't forget to support the show by sharing, subscribing, and leaving us a review so more people find all this amazing content and guests such as beautiful Melissa. Thank you so much and have a beautiful rest of your Tuesday. Bye, everybody. I am offering a free 30-minute discovery strategy business growth call for you in order to help you discover the foundational gaps that you might have between your book publishing, branding, marketing, sales, systems, and team so that you can make more impact and income in your business this year. Even if you decide not to receive the further support that I could provide for you, you will still walk away with amazing wisdom and value from my 20-year experience in helping entrepreneurs and growing my own successful business in what are some of the gaps that you are experiencing and how to connect those gaps with your ultimate business and life vision. Schedule a call now as my calendar gets booked very fast so that you could take advantage of this 30-minute opportunity to have a personalized chat together.